Hi everyone, my name is Adrián Pla, and together with my colleagues, the co-presenters Sergio Peñalver Ferez, we are delighted to present our project entitled Exploring English Interesting through Immersive VR Virtual Reality Environments. This proposal focuses on enhancing English for specific purposes, or ESP, competencies in second-year tourism undergraduates. We do this by simulating authentic professional scenarios through extended reality, specifically using the MetaQuest 3S headset and the Brink Traveller platform. The presentation will follow five main sections. First, we'll outline the theoretical foundations underpinning the proposal, constructivism, immersion, and task-based learning. Then, we will move on to the structure of the proposal, which includes six extended reality enhanced activities. After that, we'll discuss assessment criteria, followed by pedagogical benefits and limitations, and finally, our references. First of all, our theoretical framework integrates four interrelated perspectives: constructivism, immersion, task-based language teaching, and extended reality. Together, these principles create a cohesive pedagogical model that situates language learning with realistic, interactive, and personal and professionally relevant context. Regarding the constructivist approach, this proposal is built on constructivist theories of language acquisition, which conceptualize learning as an active, socially mediated, and context-dependent process. According to Piaget, 1972, and Vygotsky, 1978, learners construct knowledge through interaction with their environment and collaboration with others. From this perspective, the learner is not just a passive recipient of linguistic input, but an active participant in meaning making. In practice, this means that students engage in authentic experience-based learning situations where they use language to solve problems and also communicate purposefully. In ESP contexts, such as tourism, constructivism provides a strong foundation for developing domain-specific communicative competence because it integrates language learning directly with professional practice, according to Partridge and Stoffel. And moving forward, we've got immersion, and building on this constructivist foundation, our approach incorporates immersion as a way to boost engagement, motivation, and cognitive processing. Immersive learning situates students in realistic communicative environments, allowing them to interact with language input in a natural, multimodal way. Studies suggest that immersion enhances comprehension, recall, and learner confidence by activating multiple sensory and emotional pathways. Within this ESP context of tourism, immersion might allow students to experience the communicative situations they are preparing for, such as giving a guided tour or assisting hotel guests, and making learning both memorable and professionally relevant. Moving forward, regarding task-based learning, teaching TVLT, the immersive approach aligns directly with this TVLT, which places meaningfully communicative tasks at the center of language acquisition. TVLT operates on the belief that language develops most effectively when learners engage in purposeful, real-world activities. To do so, TVLT provides the pedagogical structure for designing tasks that combines authenticity, interaction, and reflection. For instance, students might design a guided tour, role-play customer service scenarios, or handle simulated travel crisis. This task foster both receptive skills, such as listening, and productive skills like speaking or negotiation. They also help learners apply specialized vocabulary and functional language in realistic context, effectively by bridging the gap between classroom learning and the communicative demands of the tourism industry. And finally, regarding extended reality in education, in language education, this approach, extended reality, represents the technological embodiment of these three principles: constructivism, immersion, and task-based learning, TVLT. So through this XR environments, students can explore authentic, contextually rich spaces where they interact with both the content and their peers in real time. Then, research highlights that extended reality's potential to increase motivation and also reduce language anxiety by offering safe spaces for experimentation and also communication. In our project, the use of MetaQuest 3S headsets and also Brink Traveller software enables students to explore virtual destinations and also participate in professional simulations, and lastly, perform authentic communicative tasks that will mirror real-world tourism experiences. And now I give the word to my colleague, Sergio Peñalver, that will continue with the rest of the presentation.
Thank you for the introduction and the theoretical foundations of our study. Now we'll move on to the actual explanation of the contents of the sequence of activities and its assessment. As you can see, we divided our proposal into 3 blocks, which are awareness-raising activities, control practice, and free production. We will delve into the contents of each one of them in just a few seconds. The first set of activities is of the awareness-raising type, and it is paramount that we introduce virtual reality technology in the classroom appropriately and guide our students through this new environment in which they are going to operate for the development of the sequence of activities, different from traditional approaches. Thus, with a quick tour in the Brink Traveller app, they can get to discover areas like the Grand Canyon or some famous museum, and they will fill out a sensory map, including details about what they hear, see, feel, the first impressions about the app in itself, and also evaluate through group discussions how this is different from traditional listening practices like watching a podcast or a video on YouTube. For our second activity, which approximately will take around 40 minutes, students will build on their metalinguistic awareness of tourism-specific language and oral conventions. In this case, we will introduce real-world interactions from either tour guides, hotel clerks, or even travel agents, and they will identify recurring phrases, vocabulary, all those techniques that speaking-wise they share in common. And together, the main outcome of this particular activity will be building a common expressions thesaurus with these key vocabulary so that they can resort to it later in the development of the sequence. Now let's move on to the second set of activities, which includes more controlled ones. The purpose of this next set is to provide more language input and structure before freer productions, which will come later. At this stage, we need to already start setting the scene for the assessment that is about to come at the end of the sequence, as this will reduce tech anxiety and the fear of the unknown. We have to keep in mind that students are mostly unaware of, have little experience in navigating apps like the Brink Traveller one. And through this activity, they will follow a pre-recorded virtual guided tour on a specific landmark offered by the app, which can be from the Petra monument or Machu Picchu. And they will complete a guided worksheet with missing information to keep on harnessing the thesaurus previously made and created, fostering skills like intensive listening and developing vocabulary. Then for our next activity, which will already take up a considerable amount of time, we have estimated 90 minutes, as we have to remind the audience that this is a theoretical teaching proposal. Students will start interacting themselves in pairs with a virtual reality scene, while the rest of the class can also watch what they are setting through these glasses. And this is a very important step because without it, there is going to be a disconnection between what they are watching and what the class can actually see. From here, role plays will be enacted in which students will get assigned roles, which will be created previously, and they will prompt scaffolded expressions that will allow for discourse to unfold. Before proceeding to the assessment of the directed unit, students will have a chance to self-reflect upon the contents learned and how to respond to these tourism-based scenarios, which they will do for about 40 minutes of the time allotted to the sequence. The shape that this task will take will be an open oral debatable held in class, organized according to the groups that will engage in the last task of the proposal, which is on the right inside of the slide at the moment. In this final task, students will gather in groups of 4 people. They will choose a destination offered by the Brink Traveller app, and they will design and prepare their own guided tour, which they will present and record it so that the most accurate evaluation can be provided afterward. Speaking of the assessment, we're going to briefly go over it as we don't have much time to review it in further detail. But on general lines, we are going to assess 2 items. On the one hand, you can see on the screen that we are going to analyze the ESP or communication skills. And we're also going to focus on VR-specific activity criteria. Some of the criteria that are going to be taken into account for the first rubric are fluency, accuracy, vocabulary control, and task achievement. And as for the VR-specific part of the task, we're going to assess items like creativity, engagement with the audience, which in this case will be the rest of the class, the structure and flow of the guided tour in itself, and also how students were able to integrate the virtual reality environment in the development or the unfolding of the virtual guided tour. Okay, to finish our presentation, we'll want to go over the pedagogical benefits and some of the limitations and challenges of integrating virtual reality in tourism modules. First of all, extended reality, virtual reality, however you perceive these concepts, they encourage experiential learning and contextualized input through experiences that bridge the gap between theory and real-world practice. We also want to contribute to building confidence among students who, in the tourism industry, will most probably be exposed to persuasive discourses and interactions seeking an interest on the customer's end. We also made the proposal accessible as they will be able to carry out a tour guide of their liking from the comfort of the classroom, which will be much more affordable than commuting to the actual scenarios that they will be granted access to provide or design their guided tours. However, despite all this, we also need to consider some considerations that we should take into account in order to apply our proposal. One of the most obvious obstacles is the actual investment in hardware and software that make the VR immersion possible. In our case, in the CLIO's Innovative Education Group, we made this possible by requesting access and funding to purchase the VR glasses, but this cannot always be the case for every other members or instructors that want to pursue these particular innovations in the classroom. We also need to consider the fact that the Brink Traveller app is it has a cost and it is not free of use. But like I have said, if you receive the proper funding, this could be one less worry to keep in mind. Along this journey of implementing this sequence of activities, some other issues may arise from the technical standpoint, like experiencing some motion sickness, latency, and high hardware requirements that can actually compromise the accessibility of the proposal design. In addition, there are specific demands in applying this particular sequence to effectively integrate virtual reality into the curriculum. And at some point, we also recommend that some previous extended reality or virtual reality training is done before bringing all this into the classroom. For now, this is the list of references that could be found along the presentation. We recommend you to pause in case you want to check any one of them in detail. And we have now reached the end of our presentation. Should you want to reach out to us, feel free to comment on the forum down below, or even send us an email on the email addresses that are attached to the slide. Thank you.
Thank you.